here. Okay, good. And I'm going to kind of keep my eye on the waiting room too as we go along. So who would like to start? Well, I'll start by saying I'm Sharon Burch, and I'm the CEO of New Directions for Nurses and direct the program Liberated Nurse Entrepreneur. And I'm so happy for you to be here. I conduct this first Tuesday call, the first Tuesday of every month. And it's an open forum for you to ask questions and receive my feedback, and sometimes feedback from other participants too, depending on what, your topic is. So let's start. Who would like to begin with their first question? Oh, wait a second. I have a couple more people that just came in. Okay. So who would like to start?
Hello. I
Hi.
could begin. I'm feeling shy, so I think it's better to just jump in and talk.
That sounds great, Maya. And
Yeah.
can I just acknowledge you for attending, because what time of the day is it where you are?
Right now it's midnight.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Maya's joining us from Denmark. Is that right?
Yeah, and so far I haven't got any colleagues with me from this side of the Atlantic, so
Won't be
yeah.
long. We're glad you're
Probably.
here.
I'm trying to get them interested.
So how can we help you today?
Anyway, I am actually, as I was starting on the incubator, I noticed that list that I should just check to see if I finished stage 0, and that was good because I really hadn't finished it.
Okay, good. Yes.
But I really enjoyed working with this, and it's so
Good. I'm glad you're using the checklist.
Huh?
I'm glad you're using the checklist to make
Yes,
to
it's really
that's
useful.
good.
So I'm having a lot of notes here, and I just today I was writing it into the log to have it in a place. I don't know if I can find it. Anyway, the 3 big whys is how far I got.
Okay.
Actually,
Good.
I filled this out before I wrote the whole list of things. The intrinsic why, I had to look up that word because I didn't really understand it, but to me that means built-in or innate. And what my intrinsic why is love. That's what's driving me to anything in life, and I love that. I love that insight that is really anything I do is because of love. And then the second one, the selfish why, it should really be for my own good, and doing things for my own good would serve others better than only doing it for them, which is where I think lots of nurses get lost, right? Because we think it's only for the patients that we are out there doing stuff. I really need to be on a spiritual path of uncovering truth and sharing my insights in order to fulfill my purpose, which is love, coming back to that intrinsic. And then there's the altruistic, it's the benefit for humanity. And the benefit is by me waking up and helping others to see truth, that the soul of humanity will be impacted, and that will change the world. So that's how far I got.
Wow, that's really beautiful, Maya. Thank you for sharing that. and there's some people here that aren't aware of what exercise you're talking about. So this is an exercise in the Nurse Entrepreneur Starter Kit, looking at our why we want to be in business, why we want to do that, all that it involves. And so, thank you. Do you feel complete, Maya, for right now?
I don't know what could I expect? I mean, what kind of questions? I don't know.
Yeah, well, why don't you just maybe just observe for a little bit. We'll take some
Sure.
other questions. And then if you have another question come up after you've heard kind of how it goes, you can come back in. Okay.
Good plan. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Who'd like to be next? It could be something you want to share, like what Maya did, or it could be something that you'd like input or feedback on, a question, concern. Cheryl, you're muted. You're still muted.
Okay, now am I okay?
You're
Sorry.
good.
I've had the good fortune to attend a couple of these, and so I think, Sharon, you know that I had kind of taken a little deviation in my getting set up, and will be attending and decided to add on another credential for the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And so I will be doing that in the board certification coming up in December. So I'll probably be linking up with you more extensively after that. And we had talked about that. But after our last meeting, I started thinking about what my focus would be in terms of this, and listening to some of the other participants. I kind of came up with a sort of a focus that I would like to share and see what you and what the others think of it. So in looking at what I would want to do as an individual business, and I tend to be here, there, and want to do it all. So I want to focus. I'm doing a couple of things locally. This Friday, I will be teaching a holistic stress management, doing a seminar, 3-hour seminar, which actually did not get canceled. For the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And there's a lot of interest in the obesity and the whole health education proposal that I had proposed for the early part of next year. So that was kind of an aha for me, and we'll be presenting on that. And linking this with chronic disease and lifestyle management. So I kind of came up with a statement, and I'd be interested in hearing what the thoughts are on that. So my statement is, I help people with chronic disease or who are at risk for chronic disease improve their health by making better lifestyle changes through a process of education and coaching.
Okay, good. And how do you imagine or how do you plan to use that statement, Cheryl?
That would be my elevator statement at meetings. When people ask me, I've had some difficulty boiling it down to what it is that I really do want to do. I think going through this process right now of the adding in the lifestyle management and thinking about my region where I live and the clientele that I would want to market to. And in talking with some colleagues, including some physicians, there's been some excitement about this. So I think using that as a statement in some local meetings that I attend and with some other groups, even in terms of working towards a pilot, project, might be useful. But one of my, one of my issues is, and again, I don't have a good business sense or a good business. I tend to be in some ways, very academic, and sometimes I'm told to tone that down a bit in terms of working, with people. And so that was my question about my statement. Is this something that would seem, reasonable or logical, or how does it come across to people? Trying to keep it simple, trying to involve the demographic, the type of people that I would want to be doing this too, through a process of coaching, but it also then allows me to do it individually on a one-to-one, which is what I really want to do, I think. But also, I like group education also. And so it, may involve in that direction too. So, again, I tend to be here, there, and everywhere and want to do it all, and
Yeah.
kind of need to do one step at a time.
One thing at a time. So, okay, you'd like some feedback on that statement. Can you tell us who you imagine your ideal audience to be? Tell us a little bit about that group.
Oh, adults. And that's, I don't think I put that in my statement. It would be
That's
adults.
okay.
Probably middle-aged to older. My background, of course, is with geriatrics. But I think there's a need for this even a little bit more, earlier than the geriatric group too. Okay,
so we fit in that group. The nurses here on the call, I would say we're all adults. We may or may not have chronic illness. We may have some may or may not have risk factors, but I bet we've seen enough people in that group that we could kind of step into that persona for a moment. So would you like to read your statement again? And before you do, I'd just like to ask everybody else on the call to step into the persona of an adult with either a chronic illness or, you're at risk, and listen to her statement. And then I'll ask you to give her feedback. Okay.
I'd love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my statement would be, I help adults with chronic disease or who are at risk for chronic disease improve their health by making better lifestyle choices through a process of education and coaching.
Okay. Let's give her some feedback. First, I'll guide you. Do you think of, when you hear that, do you have an image of someone come up in your mind that would actually fit that and might be interested in what she's offering?
Sorry.
Yeah, just go ahead and speak. We have a small group.
Okay. So I actually really like that statement because I work with heart patients. So by you using the phrase chronic diseases as opposed to like specifying between heart patients or diabetics, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a broad range, which is nice. And I think by using the words through coaching and education is nice, because if someone is looking for more information and kind of wants you to teach them, I think it gives them the idea that you can do that as opposed to just coaching, if that makes sense. I don't know.
All right, thank you. Cheryl, feel free to ask a question or two. We won't go too in depth with your questions, but if somebody gives you feedback and you have a little question for clarity, you can ask. Okay, Maya, go ahead. What's your feedback?
I just want to know, is that meant to be shared by you talking? Or is that supposed to be stated in text?
In do you mean in working with someone?
No, I mean, when
Um,
you present that, is that by talking to people or by writing it?
Probably both. I think,
Okay.
you know, in terms of some of my recent background is in whole health education. So I think in tapping into what I'm learning to do, and this is some of this is very new to me also, but in tapping into all the senses. And so learning to understand if I the one-to-one with the person that I'm working with, what works for them with learning and coaching on an kind of an equal basis. So some people want more information and they want it by mouth, or some people want information and they want it in writing, or some people may want information in other ways. And so it would involve both in probably some different sessions and visits, you know, according to what the person and I think would help them, letting them kind of guide what's useful for them. Does
I
that?
love that. Hmm. Good.
That's a good question. Thank you.
Hey, Cheryl, I would say, so I think you have a good start because I know how hard it is to craft these statements. So my first thought was with use as a nurse, I know like what chronic illness or at risk for chronic illness means, but I wonder, some people might have like a chronic illness, but not even realize that's, oh, my diabetes is a chronic illness. You know what I mean? So that might be a little something to tease out. And then just like what I've learned, oh, I'm sorry if I'm off, Sharon, but like through my experience with the incubator and whatnot, also maybe less about like how you're going to do it, like through the education and coaching, but more of like, what's the outcome? Like, what will they experience? Like, why would they want, I'll feel XYZ or something. And then, you know, if you got their attention, you can delve more into the how. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks. That, you know, that was one thing that I was wondering too, how to do that or pose the chronic illness. And I think you're right. I think we use that, you know, medically or in nursing, but not everybody might understand that. So I do have to think through that. So.
That's all three of you gave some really good feedback. Teresa and Deneen, did I pronounce your name correctly? Would you like to share your thoughts, your perspective?
I thought Maria's comment was great. We often do. I just lost my video there. I hope you guys can hear me.
We can.
Okay, good. We often do come at things from a nurse's perspective. And so that I think clarifying that is definitely would definitely be helpful. And also I think concentrating on the results that the clients will get from your services is key too. So yeah, I echo what Maria said. I think that's those are both spot on.
Thanks.
For me, it gave me a sense of really what you were going to do, what we were going to, if I were to do this coaching or education, what would we be talking about? We'd be talking about my chronic disease. So it just glided me right into, okay, I'm an adult and I must have these risks, and we're gonna have education and discussion about it or coaching with it. So I think it was really a nice statement.
Thank you, Deneen. Okay, well, my 2 cents is that it is a good, a very clear statement. I think as you move forward, you'll find that you do want to clarify it a little more narrowly. Right now, it's very general and broad. It could be so many different people. And that's fine to start like that. It if you're going to talk with physicians or other people that are potential referral sources, you're going to talk one way, and they're going to know immediately know those big chronic illnesses and the people in their practice that need your help. And so that's going to be a whole different, your approach that you said is perfect for those sources, because they're going to have their questions right away. Well, what about congestive heart failure? What about, diabetes or whatever? For the public, if you're going to invite them, I think they might be mildly interested with your statement, but most people don't have chronic illnesses in their mind. They have something specific. And so it might not move them to want to hire you if you use a general statement like that for a person. In general, it's good to say what the benefit is that somebody would get, and make it or the problem that you're going to help them solve. And that tends to have people lean in a little bit more and want to and know more. Because if they're laying awake at night worrying about themselves or a loved one with this specific problem, and you come along and say, you know how to help with that, they're going to really take notice, and probably be the ones that you'll get the best return on your investment of your time talking to those people than the people that are just listening, sort of nodding their head, but they don't know if it really applies to them or not. Is that helpful to you? Okay. Okay. You're muted, Cheryl.
Geez, very helpful in terms of focusing. So I
Okay.
thanks for all the input. It helps.
Yeah. You've got a great start. So just now keep going. Okay, who's next? I think I saw a question come in, but go ahead and raise your hand or tell me. Oh, it's Rebecca. Okay. You have some ideas that you want to offer, some ideas for Cheryl. Rebecca, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. So I'm gonna go back and forth kind of with what my own ideas, and then my question for that, and then some stuff that may be helpful for Cheryl. So I want to focus on environmental toxins, and that is not maybe something that is known to everybody, unless you are somebody who is maybe a higher sense of health literacy. So I've been told that environmental toxins is not a niche. It's not, going to be part of your statement, that it needs to be connected to a pain point, to a symptom that somebody is struggling with. Similarly to Cheryl, rather than saying helping manage chronic disease or whatever her how she worded it, more of like very specific, very micro niching, helping manage chronic fatigue or something. Like, what are they struggling with? Because people are feeling the pain of very specific symptoms of whatever the problem may be. So they know they have those symptoms. They may not be able to connect the dots back to the problem. of, chronic disease, or in my case, it's environmental toxins. So my idea for my program, I'm doing a 20-week program, and I'm alternating webinars for some weeks. I'm going to have pre-recorded. So that's going to be for the visual learners. And I've seen other courses have it where they offer like everything they say is printed out. So if they don't want to watch it, they can read it instead and have it in their hands, whether they want to highlight it or whatever. And then that's going to be alternating with other weeks where it's going to be a live group coaching session. And that's going to alternate too. So one week it'll be a learning session about environmental toxins and how it affects our lives. The next week will be the webinar. The third week is going to be another group coaching session. That one is going to be connection and support. So that's really going to be more group coaching and less teaching, so that, whoever's in it can connect with one another. And yeah, that'll really be group coaching. So then before it starts will be a one-to-one. Halfway through will be another one-to-one. And towards after it's over, another one-to-one. So we're getting the one-to-ones, we're getting the group coaching, teaching, group coaching, connection, and then the webinars is pre-recorded. So I was planning on pitching this because my son's school has like mom meetings type of thing. So I was planning on pitching it there. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if these moms are going to care. I don't think I'm going to have any potential clients here. I'm in Northeast Florida, outside of Jacksonville. And I'm not finding a lot of, I used this word earlier because I don't know, for lack of a better term, health literate people. Even the nurses that I've worked with, oncology nurses, it's, I don't know. I don't know what it is, if it's regional or what, but it's not on their radar. So I was like, all right, how can I advertise this? Who am I trying to reach? At first I was like, nurses, easy. And then I was like, well, not every nurse cares about it, but there's a certain type of I guess health practitioner who is interested in this, whether it's maybe acupuncturists or other holistic coaches or chiropractors. They're a little bit more Western medicine that might be more open to this. I don't know. My big question is, how am I advertising this? Who am I reaching out to? Initially, I had a list of all of these alternative healthcare practitioners in Jacksonville, and I was going to personally reach out to each and every one of them with an email or phone call and be like, are you seeing some of these same symptoms come up? And, maybe you or your patients, again, I don't know if I need to differentiate that. Do I focus on them as a provider, kind of like as a consumer? Or do I focus on saying, do your patients have this problem? Maybe they're eating the right things, doing their exercise, sleeping right, but they still have these problems. Maybe it's environmental toxins, and then, bring it up like that type of thing. But I don't know. I'm kind of struggling here. I got the program going. I know I want to focus on health literate, probably working moms in the health force, but then I'm like, how do I connect the dots here? How do I get from A to B to C, like moving forward from here? Where and how am I making those connections? Unless you guys think that it's fine just to call all those people that I have written down, just try and start making connections somehow, and then just see where it takes me.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to respond to that. So have you taught anyone besides yourself any of these skills that you're talking about? Have you had any clients that you've worked with for some part of this big 20-week program?
No.
Okay.
This is like, I've read about running like a beta type of thing. So I want to like do one of those beta projects and see how this goes, how people respond to it, and see if it's viable or not.
Right. Good. I'm glad you're aware of that, and I'm glad you are motivated to do that. That's exactly what we teach in the Nurse Business Incubator. And we'll be starting a new cohort in January. We just started one recently. And it's probably not too late. You've already done a lot of work on your business. So if you wanted to join that, we could talk with you about that. I could send you an email or something. We could talk about that off of this conversation. But that's exactly what we do. I can give you a couple tips from that, but it's a pretty big conversation, you know, more than what I could cover all of it here. In a nutshell, I recommend a couple things. First of all, to run a pilot, you want to look at that 20-week program, that whole enchilada that you want to deliver, and pick out a slice. Like if it was a pie, pick out a slice of the pie to test. And in general, it would be the slice that you think will give people the most outcome, the most results in a short amount of time. Okay. That's one part. And then it doesn't mean you do away with the rest of your 20 weeks, but you just kind of leave it on the back burner while you focus on the 1 or 2 weeks out of that 20 that you want to focus on for your test. And then you have a very good idea of going to referral sources to find your first clients. If you don't already know people in your network, then you go to referral sources next. And you'd make a little statement like what we heard Cheryl have, but it would focus specifically on the problem or the pains that the person is having related to that slice of the pie that you're going to test. Okay. And the result that you're going to help them have in the 1 or 2 weeks that they're going to be with you. So this is like a micro sample of your whole vision. You're just going to really niche it down, narrow it down. And then you test that. You talk to the practitioners, or another way you can do it is you can think about, where would these people hang out, or where would they gather? Where are they going to try to get help? And then you would go to those places yourself and put out your invitation. Okay. Now I've said a whole lot. Let me pause and see what questions you have and how you're feeling about what I just said.
It makes sense. I've heard of that too, like giving a mini course type of thing to test the waters before jumping forward with the whole big enchilada, like you said.
Yeah.
And I have thought about where they would be. So I thought about going to the health food stores in the area and maybe like the yoga studios and stuff like that.
I think that's an excellent ideas.
Okay.
And you could even, if you're not afraid of public speaking, you could bring it down into a micro bite and offer a little half an hour, 45-minute presentation at some of those places. A lot of times they would be happy for you to do something like that for free for their clients, and the health food store, the yoga center would promote it for you, and then you would have your clientele, your audience coming in and hear about what you offer. And it's even health and wellness fairs too. Thank you, Teresa. All those kinds of things. The thing is that when somebody can meet you in person, that tells them so much more than just the words written out in an email or a social media post or anything like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Teresa.
Okay. Are we finished with Rebecca, or do we have more comments that we need to?
Yeah, Rebecca, do you feel complete with that?
Yes. Thank you.
Krista's
Can I say
waving.
one thing to Rebecca really quick? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Just kind of touching. I know you had mentioned that you were maybe gonna, pitch it to the group of moms or whatever you were saying initially, but don't discount what you have to offer, because you never know, some people in that room might be like-minded also. They may very well care about it, and they just, maybe it hasn't come up in conversation, but if you have a platform to promote yourself, go for it. Somebody, even if it's one person in the room that's interested, it's still something. So don't think they're not interested, because they might very well be.
You're absolutely right.
That's good, Krista. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and go. Just starting my business, just graduated from Inca as a nurse coach. I'm a former school nurse, so I have a lot of contacts still in the school, in the education community. So my niche is going to be helping teachers with burnout. My partner is a teacher. Her job is all consuming. I have reached out to other teachers that I worked with last year. It's a problem. So I'm trying to put together a program to help these teachers who desperately need it. COVID has been incredibly difficult for nurses and for teachers. So a lot of them are considering quitting, even teachers who are, 15, 20 years into their career, they can't do it anymore. So I'm trying to give them some tools, work-life balance tools. And so, a little bit like, was it Rebecca that just spoke? I'm trying to come at it multifaceted. So mine isn't quite as ambitious as hers, but what I have so far, and I'd like feedback on this, is that I've already got actually a school lined up. It's actually the school that my partner works at. It's a small Native American school. It's about 120 kids, and there's about 20 teachers. So it's a great place to start. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to speak with the whole group of educators, more of a talk, just work-life balance. We're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk about just the basics of how to balance your life, holistically. So I'm going to talk to the whole group, and then we're going to break the group in half. So one week I'll have half of those educators, and we're going to do more like a healing circle, sort of, because from what I'm hearing from them, is what's missing in the equation is they don't get together and talk about the stresses that they're feeling. They go to professional development and things like that, but they don't really have the opportunity to just sit, learn from each other, build a camaraderie with each other, and know that they're not alone. So I think that is a huge piece that's missing. And so obviously 20 people is too big for a healing circle. So like I said, we're going to do half one week, and then 2 weeks later, I'll do the other half. And then I'm going to continue to do that through the winter. And then I think, and mostly because, I would like to do like the talk, addressing different issues, like we could talk about nutrition for 90 minutes, but the schedule just doesn't allow for that. They are so overscheduled, and they have other professional development they need to learn too. So in the spring, they've given me another 90-minute block where I'm going to talk about a different subject. But we're going to continue to do the healing circles twice a month. So everyone will get to sit in a circle once a month. And so that's kind of my plan for right now for that school. And I've already negotiated the contract and a price and all of that stuff. So I feel really confident about that part of it.
Congratulations. Hold it. Let's just acknowledge you. That's wonderful.
Thank you. It's good, considering I just graduated, so I'm happy. I'm not making $1 million, but I feel like that I'm doing where my passion lies. It lies in another place too, which is, we can talk about at a different time, but so I do feel a little bit torn, because I'm really into the herbal medicine. I had a women's retreat here at my place last month, and so that is really on my love as well. But I think there is there's some commonalities of between those two things. In fact, the women that I had here were all educators. So,
Yeah, there's not a big gap between those two focuses. I think if you stick with one for a while and let it develop, it won't be a big stretch at all to
Mhm.
bring in the other one.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm doing. I just wondered what people thought. I mean, it doesn't feel like to me like it's going to be too much to do the education piece and as well as the kind of healing circle group piece. But what do you think, Sharon? I mean,
Well, I think it sounds like you're a marvelous place to start. And the fact that you have an organization that wants you already and will pay you, even if it's not your ultimate payment, but if it's a start in the right direction, it's really important to just get yourself out there and have the experience. You'll learn so much from doing that. And
yeah,
so,
I think so too.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, ideally, I'd like to have all these schools lined up and stuff, but I know that's not the best way to do it. I need to troubleshoot first.
Yeah, consider this a pilot test for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and learn from it. Ask so many questions. Be in the, don't let your ego put you in, you know, or fear, either one can put us into the position where we're coming across as an authority. Stay soft inside and curious, so that you're asking questions and really leaning in to learn about these people and what they need and what's keeping them up at night. And then let that percolate inside yourself to develop more content for them and experiences for them and for other teachers too.
Right. And I have done a little exploration on Facebook. I do have a Facebook site for my business, and I have a lot of teacher friends, and
Good.
I'm reaching out to them like, what does keep you up at night? What is your main thing? Because I need to be able to know that, because I'm not a teacher.
Yeah.
So
That's perfect. You're doing just the exact thing I would recommend, is to ask questions, keep learning, you know, and then test what you think will, if you have an idea of what you think will help them, test it, offer it, collect the data.
Right.
Okay. Because, you know, as nurses, holistic nurses or not, we are bound to working on our practice through evidence. We base everything on evidence. It doesn't have to be published. If it's published, great. But our own evidence that we accumulate through our experience and our testing is very valid and very important, especially as entrepreneurs. Yeah. I have a feeling some of you in the group might have some response to what Teresa shared, and especially from your experience. Who would like to share?
Teresa, that's amazing that you're in the school like that, and that it's a long-term gig, right? Because that will allow you to really gather information and get feedback and testimonial and kind of further develop your program. And I'm also doing work with like burnout and resilience with employees and organizations and whatnot. And so I think you're doing amazing work already. It's super cool that you landed that, and that it's just gonna it's so needed, like you said. And what a perfect pilot, I think. So congratulations.
Does anybody else have a response they'd like to share with Teresa?
I just want to say congratulations, and it sounds really good, and I love the love that you want to share with those teachers. They really need it. Good.
Thank you.
I guess I have one more comment, and you may have already thought of this, but in case you haven't, and that is to incorporate some kind of evaluation or feedback form as you go along. I know it wouldn't be appropriate to do it at the end of each healing circle, probably, but the other things, the more didactic things that you're doing, it would be good to have a short evaluation form that you can get feedback on. What were their takeaways? What questions do they still have? Those kind of things.
Very good. No, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Do you feel complete?
Yeah, it's nice to have other people have a sounding board, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Deneen, would you like to share or have questions or anything?
Well, it seems like folks are, my voice is bad right now. It seems like folks have projects that they've already started, and I don't have a project. Where I'm stuck is the setting up of the business. So where I'm at, so sorry, where I'm at is I have an established business with the state. I have insurance. I have the bank accounts, all of that set up. And where I'm kind of struggling is getting the website designed so that it is HIPAA compliant, that you can do the scheduling, the reminders, the payment, the, like all of the business aspect of it. So I tried starting to develop one on my own. And then when, you have to have the third party vendor and then the HIPAA and the portal and I kind of have fearfully backed off and said, I'm not there yet. In the process of doing that, I started writing down what is the coaching? If someone's going to read this, what is the coaching? What is the yoga? What is the Reiki? What are the things that I would be offering? And so I'm just kind of in this holding pattern. I keep trying to research, what are the best third-party vendors for EMRs. So I researched 10 different vendors. I've kind of narrowed it down to 2. And then I have secured actually a website designer. And so I'm just kind of hanging there now. And I'm not liking it, to be very honest. I'm just really not liking it. And probably what will come forward first out of all of it, and maybe it'll be a phasing in, I'm not really sure, but I want the coaching to come out first and foremost. And this is not going to be a full-time position for me. It will be, I would like to start. I want to get started, but I just feel very hesitant because I don't feel like I have all those ducks in a row. And I'm kind of one of those very planned, crazy enough, ducks in a row kind of person. And so I just feel like I'm floundering and I'm not liking it at all. The whole purpose of this for me is to eventually allow myself to come out of the corporate world and go into what I'm passionate about, because the corporate world really does not embrace holistic care. And that really has been my passion that just came forth in the last, it's always been there with me, but I did listen to my intuition until more recently. And that inner wisdom of, you need to move forward with this. You need to let go of whatever this other corporate thing is, because it's not serving me. And I need to go with where my heart is. And it is the more holistic component of life for me. So that is my big story. And I just feel stuck, like I'm stuck in peanut butter. And I'm trying to wade through.
Yeah, I totally understand.
That's
Can you tell us a little bit about what your vision is of what you want to be doing in your new practice, your new business? What kind of audience, tell us who you want to serve, what are their problems, and how do you want to serve them? I heard the coaching, but I wonder, I also heard yoga and some other things. Could you kind of fill in the blanks there?
Sure. So this was all started when we were still pretty much COVID restricted. So it would be now a hybrid type of business where for certain things we could meet in person. And then that brought along ideas of, you have to have a place, you have to have a space. And I do actually have somebody that would rent out space to me for yoga and meditation and for Reiki. I don't think that it's private enough to do, I don't think there's any closed doors in it, but to do coaching there. But originally it was going to be all online. So looking at adults, and young adults and adults, basically. And I didn't really want to hone it in too much because I really wanted to just experience and formulate it as I worked with people to see, do I really want to work in a chronic disease? Do I really want to work with more of a niche? And so I didn't really put that kind of limitation on. But I do know I want to work with adults because I don't think at this point that I want to work with children, but adults and older adults would be where I would love to work. So I think it would be hybrid of in person or online. And I'm really kind of worried that if I put all of these things out there, I work with essential oils, I do yoga, I do Reiki. I'm finishing a certification in meditation. So there are all these different things to offer, but I'm afraid that if I put it all out there, that not others will be overwhelmed, but I might be overwhelmed. And that's okay. Because I would need to, you got to roll with that. So that's where that phasing in process was being considered. So it's still really, it's really not super hardwired. So that's kind of where I'm at. I have taught on Zoom before. I have taught on Teams before, and both of those are HIPAA compliant. So I'm good with that. I am an educator by trade. I am a nurse by trade. So I'm comfortable with the teaching aspects and being with people and talking to people. May not be evident now, but and usually have a train of thought, which is not happening right now, but and makes sense and have some sort of cohesion, which I don't feel is happening right now, because it just feels like chaos. Like it's just chaotic for me. And that's kind of where I'm sitting. And I'm trying to resonate with just being comfortable with that and starting to let it come to fruition. But I'm getting tired of waiting. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, what are the next steps? Where do I need to go? What do I need to be thinking about? And sometimes I get too much in my head, which I think is where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, you're managing a lot, and all of us do at the beginning of a business. And I just want to tell you my experience, my personal experience, and what I've observed in 100% of other entrepreneurs is at the beginning, it is chaotic.
Okay.
And actually it needs to be chaotic. It needs, because there's something forming. It's like the soup, of the creation that eventually catalyzes into a form, but it doesn't start in a finished form, and your business won't either.
Okay.
And so there is structure, there are maps and things like that to help guide you. And those are important, because if you try to do things, let's look at human development, okay? Because businesses have stages of development, just like humans have stages of development. And so if there's an infant they have certain developmental milestones to achieve before they can go to kindergarten, you know, and the kindergartner has certain developmental milestones to achieve before they can ride a bike, usually, or a motorcycle, you know, or a car. It's partly physical growth in the human, but it's also the layering of experiences so that you can have judgment, you know, to handle bigger and challenges. And so in a business, if we try to go from where we are to handling something that's out of our stage of development, we'll feel overwhelmed, we'll feel stuck, we'll feel paralyzed. There's a lot, we'll feel completely confused. Like we'll have a moment of clarity and then we'll go to complete confusion. That is a normal response to not fully maturing in one stage of development before we go to the next and the next. And I don't know if you have gotten our Nurse Entrepreneur Starter Kit course yet, but I recommend it. It's $1 and you can get it at liberatednurse.com. And it will show you a little bit about these stages. The first stage is really stage 0, where we work on ourself and we get as clear as we can inside. And before we go to stage 1, which is choosing our best idea and proving that people will buy it. And that's where the little pilot test comes in that you heard us talk about. And then there's stages that build on those. So I only bring this up because things like websites are generally come in stage 2. And if you haven't got clients yet, it's too early to try to make a website. So I've said a lot. Let me pause and hear where your response is to what I've said.
I'm just taking it all in. I'm just, I have taken business courses, but it still doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. It seems to be when I've reached out or taken these courses, like it was a full-on college course of business. If you don't have a lot of business background, it just feels like you don't know what to ask, so you don't know where to be or to start.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm finding so frustrating. So, having these resources and offering these resources is very helpful to me. I've tried to tap in my friends that have their own business, but their personality is a little different than mine. Like they're totally fine with, oh, I have an idea. Well, tomorrow we're going to do it with no planning, no what. And I was just like, yeah, I can fly pretty much by the seat of my pants, but that's a little much for me in a business. And so I'm finding my comfort zone too, but finding, having that, having you offer resources and stages might be a little more my speed of my logical, concrete brain working to help me along.
I think you're very wise to pick those things out, and it is important. We only just have a minute and then I need to end this call and having another one right on the heels of this. Let me just again encourage you to get the Nurse Entrepreneur Starter Kit for $1. It will have a nice sequence of steps for you, some of which you've already done, but it'll give you the rest of the steps for that stage so you can complete it with confidence and clarity and move on to the stage 1. And one little thing it has is a little free entrepreneur profile test called the Genius Test. And it will help you see that the difference. I mean, like your personality and what you've noticed in your friends, that's a real thing. And people with those differences develop their businesses very differently. And it's important that you follow your style, your innate blueprint, not try to follow a different style of somebody else.
Such a relief to hear somebody say that, because
Yeah.
I thought I was often left field.
Oh,
Oh my
no.
gosh, that is quite settling for me. That's grounding for me.
Good. Good.
I appreciate
Well, I
that.
hope you come back again next month. I appreciate everyone coming this month, and I'll look forward to seeing you the first Tuesday next in December. So have a good month.
To all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.